This episode is brought to you by Pella Northland. For 19 and a half years, I've been building homes, and 95% of all of my homes have used Pella windows. I couldn't be happier to call them a partner in our builds and our remodels. Whether you're an architect, a designer, or a remodeler, I'd highly recommend Pella windows. They can fit old homes, new homes, reclaimed, commercial, and really everything in between. Pella is a company that we trust and that we recommend to our clients. Additionally, in management, Peter and Ed have just been absolute fantastic people to work with, as well as mentors to me personally. So when it comes time to look for a window, I'd highly recommend Pella Windows. Find more at pellanorthland.com. Also, if you're interested, you can hear episode 1 where I interview Peter and Ed together for a great listen on business and Pella Windows. So today on the Curious Builder podcast, we had Rosa Santiago Zimmerman from Florida on, and wow, what a ride. Buckle up. You're in for some serious enthusiasm. I think my top takeaway was just Rosa's perspective on really more life and uh, how you balance your personal goals in life with your business. And one of the things that I'll take away from this episode is averaging your top 5, whether it's your personal relationships, whether it's your work relationships, really getting really sharp with the top 5 in your life. And if we are the average of the top 5 people that we spend our time with, the only way to level up ourselves is to level up the people around us, or to find people that inspire you and to be a part of their group. So without further ado, we're going to talk to Rosa Santiago Zimmerman with RSZ Design and Development. Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today, I'm joined with Rosa Santiago Zimmerman from RSZ Design and Development out of Florida. Welcome, Rosa.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Good morning. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto. Where are
I
you?
am,
Wait, no.
I am so excited to have you on. So this will be the first time we actually announced to our audience that the Curious Builder is going to go Espanol. And what we're going to do here is you just happen to be the first person in the door. And as we were chatting before you came online, you're the first of a lot of things. So I know you've got the personality and the pizzazz to handle it. So we're going to do this first interview in English because that's the only language I speak poorly. And then Bellicus Cruz, who's been on the podcast previously, is going to do a separate episode completely in Spanish. And what I really wanted to do is, celebrate so many people that we work with in the Latino community that speak Spanish. And I really want to help them also have an educational resource to do the same things that we're doing for our English audience for the Curious Builder. So I want to thank you for this opportunity and for reaching out to me. I mean, you actually reached out to me. Maybe we'll start there. I think just a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Yuritsa, one of your team members, reached out to me and thought you'd be a good fit. Why don't we start a little bit of why you reached out to me, and let's talk a little bit about your business.
Well, we'll give credit where credit is due. That is Darista's lane, and she's the one that keeps me, where I need to be. And so she actually sent you guys to me and said, hey, I think this is a great match. This is a place where you definitely need to, kind of create a collaboration with them and see what we can do together. Because at the end of the day, it's about education, right? And it's about letting people know, as you and I kind of discussed briefly before we went on air, that it's about leveling everybody up, letting people know that we're human, letting people know that we all share similar experiences. And I tend to see social media as a place where sometimes we only see the glory, but behind all that glory, there is a lot of failure. There's a lot of scraping of the knees and falling down and picking yourself up. And so I just found, some of your podcasts, when she sent them to me, I was just like, wow, this is a really good place that our industry really needs. And especially, the industry from a design perspective, because we're all about beauty and appearances. And sometimes we tend to translate that a little bit into our personal lives. And a lot of the times it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, you have Instagram and Facebook or websites. I mean, I think the website tends to be more professional. I think Instagram. One thing I really enjoy about Instagram, depending on how people choose to leverage their voice, is certainly the majority of it is usually the pretty things. But I do think that especially if you end up celebrating your team or your own personality, I think your clientele and just your peers get to know who you are as a human being and as a person. And I think I know I gravitate towards people that are real and authentic. And I can take one look at you, and one I was researching you a little bit before we had this interview, and just seeing some of your YouTube reels, like your personality just oozes out of you. And it's even like when I had Bellicus on, one of the first things I recognized about her was just how authentic and how easy and relatable. And if anything, I might say this is actually sort of a stereotype in a good way, that I have traveled a lot to Mexico and South America over the years for vacation and things like that. And I just love the people, and I find them so particularly engaging. And here in Minnesota, even though it's pretty cold, I always will walk out and be like, "Hace frio, no?" And it's like my limited Spanish to try to connect with my poor siders when it's 0 degrees out. And
Right.
they're so warm and such kind people, and I wish I could speak more Spanish so I could relate to them. So I try the best I can. And to your point though, building, and any business owner, it's messy, it's hard. And so I think it's important to show people that it's not all smoke and mirrors, and it's not all perfect, and like it's really hard. You can celebrate the successes, but I think it's okay to realize the struggles too and share in that. And I think that's what brings a community together.
No, absolutely. One of the things I always tell my clients when I'm getting ready to start a project and we have our, very real conversations is there's no construction without destruction. And so, yeah. And so this is going to be really ugly before it's pretty, right? And so I've made a successful business out of being me, out of being myself, out of being authentic. I am in an industry, and I started in an industry where there used to be, and I'm so happy is changing, where there used to be this air of, I don't know how PG your show is, but my poop doesn't stink, right? There used to be this air, and I just couldn't fit in. When I graduated, I was like, I don't fit in. That's not me. I'm not walking around with my pinky looking down on people, right? And so I came out of when I went into school, and we'll talk about my story, but when I went into school, I was a businesswoman first. So it was the great time for me to go into this education, because I was just like, okay, I'm a businesswoman first. I know this. So I'm going from the angle of, okay, I know business. I just need to educate myself in design. Right. And so I went in there and I said, okay, if these many people are taking care of the 2% that can't afford them, right? Who's taking care of the 98%? And so that was the market I decided I was going to go after. And I knew the struggle was going to be real, and I knew it was going to be a re education, and I knew it was going to be harder, because for me to go to a teacher and say, hey, you can afford an interior designer, it was like an anomaly, right? But it took a little. Obviously, that's where that's where the scraping of the knees comes in. But I was able to translate that with the authenticity that I brought to it. Listen, if we can work together, I will let you. If your budgets are unrealistic, I will let you know. But we can work it in spaces. If you get a tax refund this year, then we'll do this much. And then if you decide to save a little this year, we'll do this much. So I brought my industry to a group of people that would have never even stepped foot into it. And so that's why, I celebrate the being a first, because in the area where I was, that's what I did. And it was through that authenticity, through the being real, through the fact that I also work on budgets, and I also live on budgets, and I also go and say, okay, am I having lettuce today, or am I having spinach? You know?
Where, but and let's I wanna talk about your business now and, you've been at it for 26 years. Let's go back to the beginning. Have you always been in Florida? Like, what made you said you were always a businesswoman. How did what led you to that, and why did you choose design?
If you ask my mother this question, she'll tell you it's because my godmother, obviously, who was my godmother at baptism, that's the reason why I'm who I am. I tend to favor her a lot. She was a businesswoman, but I come from a really long line of very independent women. And so very resourceful, and I am Puerto Rican, so that's important to say, a little bit different than the women in Central America and South America. But I mean, the line of from my great grandmother, which is, the people that I've met, all the way to my mother, just very steadfast. I'm in charge. Here I go. What? I get this door, that door, doesn't really matter. There were no boundaries. And so early on, I gravitated to anything where I can sell something that I can believe in. And it was easy for me. If I believe in it, oh, I can sell
I
it,
I
right?
100% agree with you. Yeah.
100%. And so, and it's funny, Jaritza says to me when she met me, she says, "Oh my God, you've done so many things in your life." And I said, "Yeah, because if I believe in it, then I can put my heart into it." And at the end of the day, for me, that's it. If I can put my heart in it, it's a done
Well,
deal.
don't you I've never thought about it this way because I 100% agree with you. I think we don't because I would find that my story would be very similar to you. Like, if I believe in something, I wonder if sometimes the word sell has a negative connotation to those that feel like they're being sold.
Me
And
too.
where I'm going with this is I think when you really believe something, like especially if you believe it's better or it's good for somebody, you're not trying to sell them. You're trying to educate them like this has helped me. I believe in this. You should also have this in your life. And where I'm going with this is like, I had just happened to like, sports and athletics and health. So it's like, well, I know running is good for your body. And if you don't like running, there's other sports. And so I don't
Right.
have to sell you on, hey, you should be a runner, but I can celebrate like what a healthy lifestyle can do for you and try to empower you if you want that. If you want to have the same things happen in your life, then I could sort of point you to those things. But like, I'm not getting a commission. If I get somebody to like start running or, take ownership of their physical, well-being, it's not like I'm getting paid for that. I'm just simply, I am so passionate about it that I'm happy to talk about it. I think that translates to whatever business, whether it's design, building a home, or anything. Would you agree
And
with that?
absolutely. It's the way I look at it is, and I believe, I mean, deep down in my heart, that we are the average of the top 5 people we spend the most of our time with, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of sad, the average. So if we look at the top 5 people we spend the most of our time with, we are the average. So I always look at it as, if I believe in it and I can level you up with me. So if we change the word sell to, I want to level you up. I want you to feel the same passion that I feel for this. I want you to be better how this is bettering me. And especially probably similar personalities in regards to, I'm normally not doing something that is detrimental to me. I'm normally doing something that is just allowing me to grow, right?
I
So
w
I
don't
want my circle to grow with me.
I have a feeling that you're gonna relate to this next comment. I remember one time getting a coffee mug for my dad, and it said, on the coffee mug, it says, "Stop drinking coffee. Your enthusiasm is scaring people." And where I'm going with this is that because we so passionately believe in what we believe, that we come off as kind of zealots, or we come off as like, "Whoa, that's a lot coming at you," which is true because we just believe it so passionately. And I've never thought about it, but I think you're right. When you are so passionate about a particular thing, whether it's your craft, a particular, whether it could be a product, I guess, but I think it's more of an experience. Um, you're leveling up in some ways. I guess I've never thought about it, but you just articulated it better, which is we're trying to help other people level up but in so doing, we're leveling up our own average. Because to your point, if we are the sum of the average of the people around us, and if they are getting better, we, by just mathematical principles, we also are getting better, right?
And if I tie it to our tagline, which is it was a great segue. Thank you for that. Our tagline has always been creating spaces you'll love to live in. And now it's creating a world you'll love to live in. I mean, we don't need any more poop in our world. We've got plenty of poop. Right? So we are all one at a time. People like you, people like me, people like, others, I'm sure in your podcast, are swimming through the pool to show people there's a different way. It's all about a choice,
Mhm.
right? You can choose everything's perspective in life. We can have the same perspective of four different situations. And so it's I was born to be in that role. And it's in business, it's in my personal life, it's in my, you know, creative entertainment life, it's in all of it. I was born to be in that role to, my legacy the day I'm physically no longer here is I make this world a better place. I mean, that's it.
Yep. Do you have, out of curiosity, I mean, it's you kind of mentioned your grandmother. It sounds like in particularly you had very strong female character roles that were very aspirational. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Even I go back to my great grandmother. I mean, I grew up with my great grandmother around 13 kids, three husbands, buried all three.
Right.
you know, um, a woman of the house, but you could tell that she was not a woman of the. I mean, she was worried about, hey, the boys need to eat. They're coming for lunch. Here's your snack. She cooks, she cleans, the domestication of that generation, right? But if there were elections, she was the one with all the kids and the grandkids and the pickup truck in the back of the truck, all over in her little dress, all over the island. And so there was just and then my grandmother became a nurse when no woman was a nurse. Never married. She said, I don't need a man. I'm okay by myself. And I want to make sure that I identify this. Not feminists, because I have a very strong opinion about the difference between the two, but just women that love themselves first before saying, oh, okay, in order for me to exist, I need, an arm, a leg, a man, a chicken, whatever it may be, right? It doesn't matter.
Sometimes I'm guessing a chicken would be more useful than a man.
Hey, I just bought the best eggs this weekend. Yes, sometimes, yes. No, but I mean, you could see it in them how they love themselves first. And the same thing with my mother. My mother loved herself, and I could see that in her, that she took care of her. And she used to tell us, if you don't take care of you, you cannot take care of anybody else.
100% agree. It's
All
funny
the
you.
time.
100% agree with you. I think I have three small children, 8, 5, and 4. I talk about a lot about just being a parent, and I love being a dad. That being said, I have to get up early to work out and to have quiet time, because when the kids are up, you don't, that time is gone. And if and I don't have the answer, I fail just like anyone else fails, but I try to, if you can't be stable, if you can't be happy with yourself, if you can't love
Yeah.
yourself, I mean, it sounds like your grandmother loved herself. And
Yeah.
I think in the right context, it's okay. I mean, it's important to own that story. Like there are times, like my wife will sometimes say, I need some me time. And I think early, I've been married now for, coming up on 11 years. And I think when you're in any relationship, when people have the power to advocate for themselves, or as your spouse you can advocate for them, or in the workspace, as an owner of a company, can I help advocate for my employees?
Right.
And sometimes I don't necessarily know how to do that verbally, but I think if they see me being disciplined or having time to say, hey, you know what, I need to do this for my mental health. Sometimes, I'll go out for a walk after a difficult conversation, or, maybe I have a big meeting coming up and I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to take a walk, outside for a little bit. I mean, it's pretty clear, like, okay, Mark needs to get some air and outside. Like, sometimes I think we say more by not saying anything at all, but that doesn't mean
Right.
we shouldn't say something, I guess is where I'm going with this. And I just feel like it's really important to take care of yourself in a variety of different ways. And it sounds like, you had some great role models in that way. Do you have children?
I do. I have two.
What ages?
32 and 25.
And how have you sort of conveyed the messaging that your grandmother, sort of bestowed on you as a business owner now? Are they in the business, or they have their own businesses, or how have you sort of translated that message to the next generation?
Both of them are self-sufficient, independent, and have been. My son was a professional actor for many years and did very well in the industry. Unfortunately, over the past several years, the industry has changed drastically. And he had and to me, is the self love, right? We're talking about self love. He had the self love to say, this no longer serves me. This is inflicting and affecting my value system, my mental health. And so he joined the Air Force.
Good for him.
And so that's where he's at right now. And he's in technical school right now, and he will be serving in the UK, which he is thrilled for because it's his favorite place. So, everything happens for a reason. And then my daughter, she is just turned 25, and she's owned her own business since the age of 21. She actually does three-dimensional renderings
Oh.
and plans for people like ourselves.
So
And
are
she's
you able to,
starting.
are you able to work with her then?
I'm actually her number one client.
That's amazing. I love this.
Yeah, but she started with us exactly that way. She honestly got me out of a jam at the age of 16 years old. And she looked at me and she said, Mom, this looks like Sims. And I was just like, Sims. And I was like, oh, okay, well, can you learn? And she was like, oh, give me a couple of days. She literally got me out of the jam, and she started self-teaching, and now she's going to college. But she's got her business. I said, honey, you could make a business out of this. Just like me, there's so many designers and contractors that do not want to bother with this part of the industry. And so now she has over 50 clients worldwide
Wow, amazing.
and works from home. I have a brand new granddaughter, so she has the ability to have that flexibility, and at the age of 25.
I love that she, there was a problem, and I love the gumption and just, hey, I'm gonna jump in and try to do it. I think a lot of times people will look on business owners and they're like, well, oh, you had to have it all figured out. And obviously the secret message is like none of us have it really figured out. And if anything, this community and this podcast has taught me is that we're all basically versions of a big hot mess. And like that's okay. Like we are all evolving, we are always changing, and we are constantly, hopefully, evolving. Sometimes we get better, sometimes we get worse. Hopefully, we're in our journey, we continue to level up. But I think it's important to share that story that we're not a complete work. Our whole life, hopefully, we're still being worked on. And I actually just had lunch or I had breakfast with my brother-in-law. He's in aerospace engineering, and he is really impressed by his boss. And he asked me over the weekend, he wanted to have breakfast because he wanted to ask me what would be something he could do to impress his boss, and what is something he could ask, because he wants to be like his boss. And I said, that's super cool. I said,
Like,
but you
awesome.
want to know what would be even more aspirational is a lot of people talk about getting better. And I guess I'll just use a sports analogy. If you want to be really good at basketball and you're going to ask someone about how to get good at basketball, that's great. But most people don't actually follow through and do what people even ask them. I told, his name's Kyle. I said, Kyle, if you want to get better at business, if you want to be like her, start reading books, start doing what you think you need to do before you even meet her, because what will impress any business owner is someone that is already taking ownership of their own self-education and actually trying to it. And yes, awesome, it's great that you're reaching out for people for advice, and you should do that, don't stop. But realize that most people tend to sort of figure it out some way. So there's no secret formula for anybody. And so, like your
No.
daughter, I guess is what made me think of this, is,
Yeah.
there's an issue, she hopped right in and is like, oh yeah, mom, I got this, I'll solve it. I mean, I love that can do attitude. And I think that really speaks to basically what it is to be an entrepreneur at its core, is just figure it out, just do it. The it factor, if you will.
No, absolutely. And there is, if someone comes and says, "Hey, I have it all figured out," I'm sorry, then you're not learning, right? You're not growing. None of us, we're going to leave, our physical bodies are going to leave this existence, and we're not going to have it all figured out. And that's what is amazing about this, is that as long as you're humble enough to understand, hey, I am not the best at this, but I'm going to continue to level up by looking at who is better than me, who's doing it better. I love Tony Robbins, is one of my favorites, and I've been to several of his events. And one of the things, that the first one I went to that stuck with me forever was, why do you want to reinvent the wheel? Just copy the wheel, right? If you're doing something great, right? I want to look at what you're doing great, and I want to copy what you're doing. And then once I gain that knowledge, then I'm going to go to the next person that's doing it greater than you are. And it's just reinventing the wheel. Because if people think that we need to have it all figured out to start, you'll never start, because none of us have it figured out. We're all learning. It's a learning process every single day.
I think the speed in which we communicate is obviously so much greater today than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago for sure. And I
Mhm.
think, a lot of people, and with little kids, I sometimes wonder, we're still at the age where, we limit their social interaction on computers and things like that to a pretty strong degree. But from a pro standpoint, when you can look at Instagram and see what other people are doing across the world, man, can you adopt ideas quickly, and you start networking and becoming friends with people that I'm a little builder, I build 4 homes a year in Minnesota. Like, why am I talking to someone in Freeport, Florida right now? And yet somehow the platforms that we all engage on now allow us the world's our oyster. We could talk to anybody. And I think that is super powerful, to your point about learning. And I think, obviously it's the name of the show, but continuing to be curious about other people is really just a form of the more curious you can be about your craft, about other people, not only is it going to make you more
Good job.
successful, but, to your point, you're going to just be a better person, and help. I love this top 5 average. I'm gonna have to write down who the top 5 people are. I think I might be the stone, because I'm thinking about, like, my parents, my wife, and my kids. They're all cooler and better than I am. So I'm the one that's dragging down the average here. Hopefully they don't drop me out of their top 5, but
No, it's a great exercise to do. It's really enlightening.
hmm
And it changes. That's the other part that people need to understand. That, okay, obviously you're going to count your wife and your kids, right? That's great. But it's really, if we eliminate them, they're kind of a given, right?
yeah.
Your wife and your kids are kind of a given. In your circle, in your profession, especially if you're looking at it from a professional perspective, who are those people? And I had this conversation with my husband just yesterday. We hold each other accountable into, what do you bring to the table, right? What do you bring to the table? This is what I bring to the table. It's that balancing out. And here's the thing: there's some days that it's gonna be like this, and that's okay. That's called marriage. And there's some days that's gonna be like this, and that's okay too. But it can't always be like this, and it can't always be like this. At some point, we got to be here where we go, okay, this is what I bring to the table. This is my lane. This is where I'm good at. And this is your lane. And those lanes complement each other.
Do you think you could take this top 5 approach and apply it to different parts of your life? Like, I mean, it could take, You could obviously your personal life, which of course is going to be your family, but this could be like your friend circle, let's say non-family members. This could be your business. So like in my case, it'd be other builder peers that I choose to engage with on a regular basis. I feel like this is a really useful tool to sort of analyze who you're spending your time with. And I think it'd be a good tool for now. It makes me after the show want to write down and kind of create a few different categories. And then
Share it with me because
I'm
I'll
gonna
tell you to the extent. I'll tell you to the extent that I took it, and it's so funny because I just had it yesterday. In 2015, I was going through what I call an ego death. Right? I'm all about, and we can talk about that a whole new show. But an ego death is when the person you are no longer serves you. Right? That person, whatever traits you bring to the table at that point, that no longer serves you. You can see that it is time to shed your skin and mold into the new one. And so I tried this exercise and I did it just like you said. I did it with my family. I did it with my professional people. I did it with my friends. And I even did it on Facebook. I went from 600 and something friends to 249. Because one of the things I realized is that the content that I was ingesting, right?
Yeah.
Taking, absorbing every single day, which matters. It's a choice, right? Because they can be my friend or they can be unfriend or unfollow or not see you, right? There was so much garbage. Mm-hmm. And so I held myself accountable to going, no, if I want to grow and I'm going through this very painful ego death, because it is like a death, and I was mourning it, right? And I was going through the hard work of tunneling myself out of that, then I was making a choice to continue to allow this garbage into my world. And I didn't need that to where I wanted to be. Where I wanted to be, garbage didn't have a place, right? So I did. I cleaned up. And I went through friends that were one-sided friends. I went through relatives that were just sucking the life out of me. I went through professional people that just had no place in where we were going, you know? And then I had a family meeting and I said, hey, we all need to level up. You all I can't get rid of, but kind of stuck with you, children and husband. But we got to level this up. We got to find a way to be better, of better service to each other.
This episode is brought to you by Adaptive, the software for builders that automates draws, budgets, and bookkeeping with AI. For over a year now, I've been partnered with Adaptive, and they've just been an amazing game changer in terms of efficiency in our time and all our bookkeeping. From the time we get an invoice, we import it into their system. The AI codes it, cost codes it, job codes it. All we have to do is review it, pass it through the people internally in the office, all digitally, and then it gets approved and paid all via ACH. It's becoming extremely fast and saving us countless hours a day and a week. When it comes to draws, all of our budgets now are set in Adaptive as well. So now when we cost code against the draws, we can do our change orders, and then with a click of a button, we can submit these draws to our title companies or to our homeowners for faster payment. If you're looking to save time, and if you're looking to be accurate, I highly recommend Adaptive. Additionally, if you'd like to listen to one of their founders share the story of Adaptive, you can listen to episode number 15 on the Curious Builder podcast. A transition, I think that's super helpful to hear. And I know we could talk a lot about that, and we will. It's coming to me right now a little bit about branding of a company. A couple of years ago, we went through a brand change, and I think it'd been 10 years previously before I had done a brand change. And my wife said, you are building homes that no longer reflect the brand and the company that you are today. And I wasn't aware of it because when you, it's kind of like, if you don't see someone for a long time and let's say you're training for a marathon, you're going to lose weight. You're going to probably be tan because you're outside running. And then someone who hasn't seen you for a couple of years is like, whoa, hey, have you changed? But if you look every single day in the mirror, you don't recognize the change that's happening because you're too close to it. And so I think having people in your life that can kind of give you, perspective outside yourself is super valuable. And anyway, back to the business side of things, she said, hey, it's time for a brand change. And so I was super excited once I went through it and realized, wow, you're right. And I've had so many people sort of comment on that. But I think of I guess if I was to put a bad label on it, what you're talking about is like a personal brand recognition, like, hey, these are the friends that don't serve me. I have evolved as a person, and these are the people that I'm taking with me. And my wife actually has recently said that, there's people in her life that take away her energy. And I think, we all ebb and flow in our personal lives, and sometimes we need to be a rock for somebody else that's a flounder. And I'm certainly thankful for those people in my life that have been a rock when I've needed their help. But if somebody is always a rock and you're trying to swim through the ocean of life, like, that's just some dead weight you got to cut. And I know for myself personally, that's really hard. I have a very large friend network. I suspect you do as well. And so,
Actually, I don't.
because,
I
and
will tell you
oh,
that I
you
do
don't?
not.
Oh,
No.
that surprises me. And that
I know
surprises
a
me a
lot of
lot.
people,
Yeah,
but friends, I
5.
can count them in one hand.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow, that's
Well, go
impressive.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
Well,
off.
no, I think that's impressive perspective that I would not have expected that with your personality. I would have expected you to have, I mean, especially the way you just framed it in the sense that you kind of went from 600 to 200 and, kind of went through this process. I've kind of, my personal, I actually don't really ever go on Facebook, but Instagram, when I first started, was I'm only going to have my immediate friends on it. And I've really sort of kept people like, you ever go through that and you scroll through your Instagram, and this is not professionally, because professionally, anyone that wants to follow a company is like, obviously I'm not, that's the whole point of it, is to get business and to
Right.
have your brand. But for personal, I have a lot of people that will try to friend me personally from the workspace. And it's not that I don't want to be their friend, but it's that, I can't even give enough time to my close friends that I would like to. And it's a bit of a priority thing. And so I haven't done this now after this conversation. I think this weekend I'm going to go through my personal Instagram, but I bet you there'll be people I don't actually know. And if I don't know them, I got to get rid of them immediately. And then it's like, it's a little bit like I recently partnered with a company called the Neat Method. Have you ever heard of Neat Method? And
Yes.
so I'm a pretty neat person, but my wife is like OCD neat. And so I had them come in and sort all my clothes, all my shirts, everything, the garage, the storage room, to help me sort of get rid of stuff. And I've appreciated the insight. I think to what you're talking about is they'd hold up a shirt essentially and they'd say, have you worn this in the last 6 months? And if the answer was no, goodbye. And so the point is like, what is serving you and what isn't. I think you can take that same principle to business, to personal, I mean, you
Yes.
can apply it to almost anything, and it's super helpful. And sometimes we just need a third party. Sometimes we need someone outside of our network to kind of say, hey, wake up and smell the coffee. Is this helping your business? Is this helping your personal life? And if it's not, then we can help you get rid of it. Because sometimes people feel powerless to actually make a change. And that's where I feel like, peer networking groups, the confidants, coaches, people that you've sort of empowered to help you can really, really help you.
Absolutely. 100%. All of it. Yes.
One of the questions that I had for you, moving on a little bit, is so you tell me about this Z Fitness. It was the first thing on your LinkedIn, and then you had 22 years and 26 years of RSZ design. But what's Z Fitness?
So C fitness, like I told you, if I believe in something, I can sell it, right? And I let me tell you, there's so much missing from my LinkedIn, and I don't even know why C fitness is on there. We not exactly sure, but we'll leave it. It doesn't matter. It's one of those molting skins in my life, right? Um, I was an athlete growing up. I danced for many, many, many years. And I went through a period of my life where my um, hormones were a mess and my weight was, I mean, I didn't even recognize myself. And, my sanity, my mental health, it's two things. It's my life coach and a brunch gym at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's what I do. And I can relate to you getting up early before the world wakes up to do your running or be at the gym or whatever. And so I had gone through a phase where I was just like really unhappy with my physical self. And I'm a very big look in the mirror kind of person, right? Everything I do is, okay, look in the mirror first. What could you have done different? What can you change? What can, before I go blaming, the tacos, right? It's not the tacos' fault. They didn't jump in my mouth. so, so I said, you know what? Well, I danced for many years, and I love to dance. I love to dance, love it. I was like, and Zumba was the big craze. So I was just like, huh, let me just get licensed. So I went and got licensed in Zumba. I was like, why not? And a friend of mine knew that I was getting licensed. She was like, you should start teaching. I'll come take your class. And I was like, okay. Long story short, I end up with 300 plus clients of Zumba,
Wow.
where I am having to rent a nightclub twice a week to teach it. A massive nightclub with a 5,000 square foot dance floor to teach this class. So we ended up opening C Fitness. I owned C Fitness for 7 years. This was my side hustle besides my design hustle. This was my fitness. So I taught anywhere between 16 and 19 classes a week. That grew into hit training, that grew into just a lot of great stuff. Um, but like I said, I believe that the reason why I think it was so successful, number one, because I believed in it, but because I was the chunky girl losing the weight with you. So my chunky monkeys out there that were unhappy as I was said, "Oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it." And in C Fitness, within a 6 month period, we lost 1,800 pounds.
Wow.
And it was just, I mean, it was the best 7 years, honestly. I owned it for 7 years, and I loved every transformation, and I'm a kind of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Coach Carter, but I'm kind of a Coach Carter. And so I don't, I'm not babying you. You're here because you want to be here. If you don't want to be here, go to Target. I don't care. It's you're on you, right? That's my attitude with people in life. And so it was just, I mean, we became such a tight group. A lot of those people that you see on my LinkedIn worked out with me. And then we elevated. There was a group called the Beast Mode, which was the ones that went to hit training. So we used to do a Zumba class, a hit training class, and a stretch class. I ended up writing a program for an NFL team for the Falcons in Atlanta, where they would come into my studio and do stretch rehab, especially the linebackers trying to touch their toes so that they wouldn't suffer injuries.
Right? Yeah.
And they would tell me all the time, we would rather be on the field for 8 hours than here attempting to touch our toes. So no, it was a beautiful time of my life, and that was the fitness, and it put me in this in where I was happy, and I could share my leveling up with the rest of the people, with the rest of the world, those that wanted to be a part of it.
I love that. I mean, that's a beautiful story, very empowering. I can see why people would gravitate towards it. I mean, anytime that your leader is also in the same battle that you are, is obviously the ownership is outstanding, and people, you can't fake that, you can't sell that.
Yep.
It just is, and so I can see why so many people followed. How now we'll talk. I'd like to talk about obviously the design, what you're currently doing, because that's the main reason that you're even on. But I've enjoyed so much just talking more about the personality and the life stuff, and I think people can relate to that a lot. Tell me about design. And I love, you had mentioned creating a world that you love to live in. I love how empowering that is. How have you sort of, like, why is it that you could do anything? I mean, you've already demonstrated a couple things that you could already do. Why design? Like, what is it about design that empowers you and has been the staying power? I mean, you've done it for 26 years, and I just, and we'll talk a little bit later about the Rosa's Reels, which is only about 4.5 years old. But why don't you start first with, that first question?
Well, design, it was so in between all of that, there were several other businesses that I started. Again, my godmother, she just, her very one, she's like, you're just gonna do businesses. That's what you're gonna do. So I had eight. businesses. And the in between all that, one of the businesses was my husband is in the security world, in the internet security world, and I saw a need, and I saw a need in an area, and I just said, "Hey, let's do this." And so I helped them get that off the ground. I got it off the ground. We were working with tons of government programs and just, I mean, he's very high end. He needed a specific security clearance and all this kind of stuff. And then after that, it was boring to me. The excitement of it was the startup, right? So I was there, I got it going, I got all the resources. Good. It's woman owned, it's Latina owned. We're all good, right? Fantastic. Get me out of here. I don't understand what you all are talking about. I'm bored out of my mind. Still till this day, I have no idea what we sold, but it doesn't matter because I said to him, all right, this is good. We can eat, we can pay our bills, we're comfortable enough. I want to go back to school. And he looked at me and he's like, you want to go back to school for what? And I said, I want to study design. And, I had already been dabbling at, friend here, a friend there. Let me come in. Oh my God, I'm good at this, blah, blah, blah. But I was just like, I want to go study design. And so that's where RC Interiors first started. We just rebranded 3 years ago to RSC Design Development, but RSC Interiors is what's honestly 27 years old. And so it was just something that was easy for me. Again, I believed in it. I could do it. I could sell it. And so I went back to school at almost 30, 29, 28. And I did it in 3 years. And again, it was easy for me. And the rest is history. Here I am.
What is it about it that is so empowering? I mean, you obviously you started, 8 different businesses. The one, you got it going and you're like, okay, I'm out. This also has staying power. What is it about design that has been able to fulfill you and you fulfill your drive over and over and over again?
I think I'm a right brain and left brain. So I think it's the ability of both. The ability to be analytical and OCD and ADHD and ADD and all of those magnificent skills that people put on this negative row, right? And at the same time, to be creative. And what I think I love about it the most is that just like startups, I get a brand new startup every single time,
Yeah.
right?
I
It's
was
it's short term, it's short lived, except during COVID. That's a different story. But it's short term, it's short lived. I see it from start to finish. I run it from start to finish. And just as I'm getting bored of you, there's a new one coming.
that's funny. I'm a very undiagnosed ADHD, but I'm pretty sure, anyone could tell that. I was noticing the other day, like, I don't know if I know a single business owner that doesn't have ADHD actually.
All of us do.
I feel like it's a prerequisite in order to own a business. But the other part of it, I think that's what appeals to me about building and remodeling is the people are always new and different. And while sometimes obviously relationships can be challenging and navigating that, there's also so many more rewardings. For every difficult one, you've got 9 amazing ones. And so I think because people are different, it makes each job different. And, at least for what I do, I want to really harness the personality of the people and bring it out in their home. And so
Right.
nothing will give me a better compliment than for somebody to say, "Oh, that home is so different than your last home." And I'll say, "Yeah, that's because to me, that person, that's John's home. That's Carrie's home."
It's
It's,
supposed to be.
yes, the architect and the interior design team and myself, obviously we have a huge part and you can sort of recognize our handprints on it. But I'm really proud of the fact that I want to I want to extrapolate you, my client. I want to get your personality so that this home reflects your idea, your brand. I mean, I guess talking to what, who is it that they are as a couple today? Because sometimes we'll build for a young couple, and a lot of times we're building for older couples. And, the older couples have a much different goal than maybe they would as a young family. And, we're
Right.
meeting a couple later today that they want to build a house that will entice their three children and all their grandchildren to come to their house. And I said, well, I'm your builder because I'll let the inner child in me loose and we'll design some pretty cool, kid friendly things, whether it's a rock climbing wall, ping pong, foosball, and just kind of really let that part be explored so that they always say that if you have a house that has all the things, the kids want to go there. And
Right.
so I really have appreciated that in a design point. So I think you're right. I think that's what leads to it keeps scratching the itch for us, that because it's every project is sort of a new, you sort of go back to this creation of original creation. And so I think anyway it fulfills, it doesn't get monotonous. For one thing, I could not do the
Yep.
same thing over and over again. I would get too bored.
Yeah. And that was me. That is why I think this particular, industry for me has stuck, is because it's a new project every single time, and it's a new different set of traits, and it's a new different set of challenges. And so it keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me learning, and it keeps me understanding the different trends and figuring out how I can challenge the things that I don't know, and working just with different people. And again, back to my tagline, and I honestly think that our tagline will never change, because it's creating spaces you'll love to live in.
Mhm.
I don't, every time my clients say to me, what do you think? Who cares? I'm leaving in 3 months. What do you think? And obviously, if you're wanting, pink polka dots on your ceiling with mirrors in the middle of the polka dots, I'm going to say, is this your forever home? And we're going to talk about the business of the business and the ROI, and are you going to sell? And, pink polka dots might not be the prospective buyer's, you know, taste and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, home is home, and home is home to you. And so I'm just here as a vessel to help you, right? Get to where you want to be and do it tastefully.
Mhm. Talk to me a little bit about your Rosa's Real Reels. I went on and I watched some of you got a full on production team. I saw, you were obviously, walking through a house, you were explaining some details, and, obviously I saw a videographer, I saw a lighter. It looked like you were on a movie set. Walk
I
us a little
am.
through that. Yeah. Walk us through what that is, where that fits into the grand scheme of your business and how it's either benefited you now, or where do you see that sort of business platform going, and who are you trying to speak to through it?
Your audience is my audience. Rosa's Real Reels was a one of those bucket list items that I had been dabbing with and kind of thinking about. And I'm not, even though it seems like it may come across as, I'm not an impulsive person. I will sit on some things. I'm a risk taker. I'm the one that will jump without the cape. Doesn't matter. I don't need it. I'll land or oops, you know. But it's one of those. But I am methodical about the decisions that I make. And for the longest time, I've looked at our industry and I've gone, okay, love this show, love this show, love this show, don't really love this show. This is not realistic. This is, scripted. This is not the real budget. And I don't know if you do that, but I do that. I'm like, really, lady? That chair alone is $700. What are you talking about? You spent 10,000, you know? And so I started getting, and the word is dissatisfied with what I was seeing. And so the other part that I started getting dissatisfied, and I know Betis will appreciate this when her and I talk, is I kept on seeing the representation of the Latinos in the background with no name, no credits, no anything, in passing, on a pan shot. And I kept on going, okay, well, wait a second. That's a beautiful wall. And yes, I thought of it, but I didn't build it. There is no way these pretty nails are touching any of those bricks. Not gonna happen. I may help you with one, but then after that, I'll be like, gotta go. And so I said, you know what? I started doing my research, and we did our research for 2 years. There has never been a Latina at the front end of any design show, home improvement, DIY, you name it, you call it, ever. Ever. And so I said, well, I've done a lot of firsts. Why not? Let's do it. Let's see what happens. And so we just started recording our projects because I wanted three different things on it. When we sat down to talk about how we were going to do it, we said, okay, what do I want to see? Well, and we're visual people. So the first thing I said is, okay, if I were to have a show, how would I like it? And I said, oh, I like Modern Family. I like the fact that we go from Cam's house to Gloria's house to the other crazy's house to this one crazy's house, and everybody's got a different story. Okay, so we'll shape it this way. And then what else do we want to see? Well, we definitely want to see the guys. I want to know their story. I want to know why they're here, where they're from, why are they in this industry? How do they, what's their role in the team? Because when I talk about my team, that's my team. I'm sorry, anything pretty and beautiful and whatever that I put up here and Victoria may draw on paper does not come to fruition unless my team, that's my team, puts it together. Doesn't matter. It's not me, it's them. And so I wanted the story of my team. And so we started filming. We started filming our projects. And, having a little bit of experience with my son's life, we brought in a very small crew, and we just started sharing the story of what we do. And we started sharing the story with the permission of our clients in real time. So, if you go to our YouTube right now, all of our episodes are actually down. We have 4 episodes that are out. There's a 5th and a 6th that are right now in editing. But this is a span of 3 years. We're filming in real time. So, for example, one of the projects was during COVID. We're there 18 months. So we're filming 18 months of this project. And so the joke of it is my hair color.
Oh, funny.
Why are you blonde today? How come you have no hair now? How come you're a redhead? How come you got brown hair now? But no, that was the essence of Rosa's Real Reels. And so when we put Rosa's Real Reels out there on Instagram first, we started with a small following, and then when the YouTube came on, we went from one day to the next to the following that we have now, which I think is 22,000, something to that effect. And we realized that the majority of the people that were following us out of Central America and South America.
Oh, wow.
Even though the show is in English, but it's in Spanglish, because if I'm talking to the guys and the guys are Spanish, then they're Spanish. But I have a huge Romanian crew. And so, I'll throw some Romanian words that they've taught me. They're probably all bad words here and there. But we were getting a lot of following from those markets. And so we have pitched the show to several major networks. They're not interested, they're not ready. And that's okay. Because the networks are beginning to realize that they're not very much needed anymore, as you're doing, as I'm doing. We've got YouTube, we've got streaming services. People are going away from there to other places where they can be seen without the restrictions.
Yep, without restrictions, without scripts. I think going back to our what we've started the podcast, which is, the approachability of being authentic and just being real.
Yeah.
And, I've said it many times in this show. Morgan Molitor, a good friend of mine, is the first one that told it to me, but your vibe attracts your tribe. And kind of like what you said just 10, 15 minutes ago, which is, the people that want to be there or want to work with you will stay there, and those that don't won't. And being okay with that. I think some of that comes with maturity. I've been building, I just celebrated our 20th year of building. And don't you wish you could go back and be as confident as you are now
Oh my
as like
God,
a
yes.
22-year-old? And not that I wasn't confident. Clearly, if we're passionate, I'm guessing we were both very confident, but like confident competence and like a deep understanding of who you are, that just takes time. And I think, when you look at people who really understand who they are, there's something magnetic about them that, there's a reason why we look to our elders and, like your grandmother and,
Hmm.
people that, they have a real stabilizing influence because they've had a lot of experiences. And I know we love to celebrate our youth, and rightly so. We should celebrate our youth. There's so much in their future. There's so much joy there. There's so much hope, and I love kids. I used to be a coach for 10 years as well, and so I love that. But that being said, like I love my golden oldies. I mean, my grandma's 97, and
Oh,
she's still kicking. She still wears high heels. I'm like, grandma, what are you doing? She's like, what? I like them. And I'm like, okay, far be it, she's never going to listen to me. I mean, when we were in COVID, she's like, people don't remember that, polio was pretty bad. She goes, we had to wait for like 7 years to get a polio vaccine. She's like, the COVID vaccine happened pretty quick. And I was like, my point is like, talk about perspective. She's been alive for 100 years. And
right.
I feel like it's so easy to get zeroed in on a small segment of time. And anyway, going back to I think your top 5 thing is going to be the most impactful thing I'm going to take from this episode is just really realizing of who we surround ourselves with. As we kind of come into the end, I want to talk a little bit about your target clientele. You had mentioned beforehand. Talk to me. Obviously, Real Reels, you're getting a huge following in Latin America, which is wonderful. And even like what I'm trying to do now with the Curious Builder is to give a voice to those that speak Spanish, and so that they can educate. And I don't want language to be a barrier to education. I don't
Hmm.
want language to be a barrier to self-education and to leveling up your business, especially in the construction field, because so many of the people I work with specifically, Spanish is their primary language. And who is your target clientele? You sort of hinted who you thought it might be, and I want to hear who it actually is now. And I understand that maybe the demographics of people are different in Florida than they are in Minnesota, but I suspect that, well, I guess I'd just like to hear your experience on that.
Yeah. So just so I started my 27 years of doing this. The majority of it has been in Georgia,
Okay.
and I moved here to Florida from the Atlanta northern suburbs about 3 years ago. And just because this was always going to be forever home for me, I'm an island girl, and I needed to get back to water. My scales were requesting it, and so and so I always knew that this area was going to be forever home eventually. And so, but our target audience, our target clientele, is it's anyone who is in the in need of guidance. From a design or from a construction perspective, anyone who is wanting to build a home. If you're wanting to build a museum, I'm not your girl. You know, I thrive and I shine where I'm building a home that I can get to know you as a person, and I can design and create for you as a person. With your two, one of the projects that it's featured on Rosa's Real Reels is the Claremont project. Well, I'm deciding for two individuals who are retired, and their two babies, and their two babies are two 250-pound mastiffs.
Wow.
So the entire home, 6,800 square feet on 13 acres of land, is designed around these babies. That every single time they go like this, the drool goes that way, that way, that way, that way.
That's like, do you remember the movie Turner and Hooch?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Beethoven, either one of
yeah,
the two.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just dated us.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so that is my clientele. I love working with people who understand what they want. A lot of people say, oh well, designers, are builders. uh, we want you to tell us what you want, and we can help you and guide you. I don't know what I want. Well, we need to hone that down. So having that centric ability to be able to articulate, I need this, I want this. It is important for me to have the utensils on the left and the whatever on the right and the coffee machine here and the towels for the dogs here. And I love authentic people. And honestly, that is 99.9% of my clientele is authentic people that live their common lives, what you would consider common life. And they have kids, they have dogs, they have cats, they have grandparents, they have, aging parents. Those are the ones that give me a thrill to work with. You know, if you were to say, "Oh, Beyonce needs you," I'd be like, "Nah, I'm good." I'd be bored. I mean,
I hope Beyonce calls you after this and puts you to the test.
I hope not. Not a Beyonce fan. So I hope not. No, but I mean, I just that, and I used to do very early in my career. That's what I used to do, and I used to get the phone calls. Oh, what did Mary do in her powder bathroom?
Sure. Yep.
And how much did she spend? Uh,
Yep. That's not.
that
Yep.
doesn't fulfill me,
Yep.
right? And I'm not at a level anymore where it's about just paying the bills, right? And I think what you and I talked about, that graduation, that evolve, that molding of skins, where you get to a place and you go, does this fulfill me? Does this make me happy? You know what's the biggest challenge I have now as a builder, as a designer, is figuring out which Christmas party I accept to go to, because my clients are my friends. And so, I'll have 7, 8, 9, 20 invitations, and I'll be like, okay, well, I can go to yours today, but next year I'll go
Five.
to yours.
Five. You can only
Well,
pick five.
like, exactly, right? And so, but that's a beautiful problem to have, that you are in such synergy and unity with your clients.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to continue to receive, people that I can level up and level me up.
Well, it just dawned on me that yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, so maybe your five is very heavily influenced by Cinco de Mayo.
That is my favorite number, by the way.
It's a great number.
Yes,
We
my
had we had
favorite
a lot of
number.
number episodes on. We had Aaron Eggert on. He started a networking peer-to-peer networking group called Coalition 9, and he's obsessed with 9. So 369, and anyway, we could go on and on about numbers. But well, we're at the end of our 1 hour podcast here, and I want to save your time. Obviously, you're going to do another one right now with Belle in Spanish, and so maybe I'll just leave it with one last thing, is because obviously all your details will be in our show notes so people can reach out to you there. But what is one thing that you're really looking forward to in the second half of 24?
I am looking for. There's two things I'm looking forward to. I'm looking for. We're getting ready to build some custom homes in the beautiful country here in Florida. There is country here, 20 minutes from the beach, on 10-acre lots. So I'm excited for those. It's called the Wisteria Canopy Project, and I'm super super excited for those. And the other thing that I'm so excited for is we are working on a animated series about design.
Really?
Yes,
Tell me more about that. That sounds very intriguing.
with kind of, again, I'll give you a visual, right? Kind of like Rosita Bob the Builder.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And it's going to be done in English and Spanish at the same time.
I like this a lot.
So we're super excited about
When will
that. It's
this
never
be
been
what
done.
when will this be airing?
We're working on it. It's there's a lot of logistics in place. We're hoping that our goal is to take it to the KBIS next year
Oh yeah.
in 2025.
Well, we're gonna be there. Actually, we haven't announced it yet, and we're still working on it. I've gone the last 2 years. I think this next year I'll be doing some form of interviewing, kind of, man on the street style video, capture, interviews, but if I can be of help of any way, I would love to promote that. Having little kids, we actually just did some stuff here, where we do every time we tear down a house, we'll send out a letter to everyone in the neighborhood, and we made our own coloring books about the trades, just trying to get kids excited about building, but you're taking it to a whole nother level. So I can't wait to see what that's going to become.
I want to get girls, and
Yeah,
not that I don't want to get boys excited too, but this is a male centric industry. And I
100%,
want to get girls excited to know that this industry is also open to them. That just
100%.
because they see a lot of guys doesn't mean we can't be a strong,
I mean, I've said this many times on the podcast, and I believe this. I mean, it is such a male-dominated industry, and I wanna celebrate our female owners of, not only design, builders, remodelers, but anyone. I have an 8-year-old daughter who would be an amazing business owner, and so we'll see if she has a passion for that or whatever she decides to do is fine with me, but where I was going with this is, 90% of the decisions that we make in a home, the missus makes, right? You just mentioned your grandmother who was a superpower in the household and far beyond that. But, if my mom was an interior designer and early on, I think I didn't realize I was kind of the training I was getting, but, she was training me to speak to women, not only respectfully, but understand their voice. And I'm sure I've failed many, many times. And so, but my point is, and I think every builder can relate to, is that, you know, the missus makes most of the decisions in the home that we build with. And as a builder, if you can't relate to women and if you can't listen to them, and again, I have failed many times at this, so I'm certainly not perfect. But the point is how much better if the people that are in place to make these decisions, architects, builders, designers, everyone, we just need more women because ultimately that is who is making the decisions as well. On top of just wanting them, I think honestly, women are just better than men. They're more organized, they're more thoughtful. I mean, there's just so many things that I feel like women do better than men anyway. And obviously the best is a partnership, where we support each other, no different than a spouse relationship. No one is better than another. It's really
right.
together. You mentioned before this teeter totter of, it's not always equal perfectly. But I think if your team can sort of represent that, as well as the clients, I think you're just going to get a better build. I mean, we're going to live in a better place and people are just going to be happier. And it's a pretty exciting place in time to live in because I mean, look at how much has changed over the last 20 years. It's pretty inspiring to be a dad of a girl and thinking like what her future can be and stuff that as a man, especially as a white man, I don't know what I don't know. My wife is a minority; she's Asian, and whenever we have dinner parties, it's kind of like, no, you don't get a voice because whatever. I won't go into all that right now, but I think you probably know what I'm speaking to. And it's like
Yeah.
having people in my life that can sort of fact check me or kind of help me get that perspective. I'm super thankful for, and it's broadened my horizon. That's one of the reasons why I love to travel, why I love going to other countries and just see how. I just think it makes you a better person, makes you a better business owner. And if we can take those and become just better, I think everyone else around us also benefits.
Absolutely. And I've raised my kids with that school of thought. I've always said to my kids, there's, I personally grew up, again, growing up in Puerto Rico, I didn't see color till I came to the States. That was not a thing we saw, right? We just didn't. We Puerto Ricans come in so many different colors. It's not even like it does. It's weird. Like if I showed you my friends from middle school, you'll be like, "What is happening?" It's like an episode of Little Rascals. But it's we're people.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think that's where, as a whole, our world needs to get to. We are people, no matter what. Someone shoots a gun and hits you in the heart, you're gonna die. Whether you're black, pink, purple, Puerto Rican, Spanish, Catholic, atheist, Democrat, Republican, LGBT, what, you're going to die. We're humans. So we need to just get. I'm a huge proponent of get all these labels out of the way.
Yeah.
We're just people,
Yep. I
right? Just
do you,
people.
so let
Just
me
be.
ask you this question. Do you think we are better off today as a society than we were 10 years ago?
Absolutely not.
Oh, not you don't think we are? You
No,
don't think we've gotten better?
no, no.
Why not?
You know, because we're living in a world where we forgot to be centric, right? We are now, all of us are now a
Oh,
label,
I see. Everything's
right?
an extreme, you mean?
Well, and everything's a label. You just said I'm a white man. I don't see you as a white man. I see you as a man,
Right.
right? You identify as a man. You're a man. I'm a woman, right? I um I was just watching the OJ movies just because he passed, and I was watching the movie. I had never seen it, and as screwed up as that whole situation was, one of the things that I appreciated about him in his early career was what he said. I am not a black man in a white world. I am a man who's really good at football, and people love me for my skills. You know, I have never, me personally, and Belkis will probably be like, oh, I'm digging into that. I have never celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month. For me, Hispanic Heritage Month is every single day that I'm alive, right? My kids always say to me, oh, it's Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day every day. Dude, as a matter of fact, in my family, and you'll find this funny, I send my kids away on Mother's Day. I'm with you 364 days out of the year. Go away for Mother's Day. I should be able to go and go to the spa and go get, tipsy with my girlfriend. So, because if you think about it, what does dad do for Father's Day? Dad goes golfing or hunting or in the fishing trip. So, I've never spent Mother's Day with my children. As a matter of fact, this year will be the first time I'm spending Mother's Day with my son, and that's because he's in technical school and I'm going to go see him. But I'm never, so it's just we need to get away from this labeling, right?
Mhm.
And we need to remember that at the end of the day, we're people.
Yeah, 100%.
My husband's white. You said yours is a minority. I don't think yours is a minority. I think mine is a minority. Mine's white. And if we talk about it today, you're the minority, and so is he.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't. I wasn't raised that way, and when it became a thing here, I was just like, I'm not changing who I am. I'm a
Right, and
person.
I
I'm a
and I and
person.
I and I think you're in a better place to answer the question. That's why I asked it, because I would look and say, do I think, because I agree with you that, we have labels for everything, and, people are people, just be normal, just get normal. But,
Yeah.
where I was going with this is I feel like I and yeah, I guess, my thought is like, I'm thinking about my daughter. Like, I think there is more opportunity for her as a woman today, or a little girl someday to be a woman, than there was 10 years ago. I think that's why I was framing the question. So do you disagree with that? Do you think there was more opportunity 10 years ago for a woman business owner than there is today? Or
You know,
do you think that by everyone labeling everything all the time, we're actually regressing?
I don't know how old you are, and I'm probably a little older than
43,
you are.
43,
Pardon?
43.
Okay, yeah, I'm a little older. Not much, but a little. But, I remember affirmative action, right? I don't want an opportunity due to affirmative action, although I did take advantage of affirmative action, right? I want an opportunity because I earned it.
Right. Yeah.
If you and I are competing for a job and you're the better builder, more power to you. Guess what I need to do? I need to figure out what you're doing that I didn't do so that I can level up
Right.
so that we can compete.
Right.
My first education, I was like paramedic, firefighter. I told you I had a life. And the girls began suing the city that I was working out of, that I was training with, because they couldn't get the ladder out of the truck. Well, tough shit. If you can't get the ladder out of the truck, you can't put it against the window to save the guy that's burning. So then you can't do the job, right?
Right.
Because your job is to get the ladder out of the truck
Right, it's
to
based
get to
on
the
it's based
window.
on merit, not the color of your skin or your sex or anything like that.
No,
Yeah, no, I
no. And I
100% agree.
honestly think
Mhm.
that for your daughter, if I was talking to her, I would say the same thing my parents said to me. You can do anything you want to do. Now, are you going to walk into Google and they're going to go, which quota do we need to fit today? Oh, look, you are trans, white, purple, pink hair, whatever. Oh, you fit that quota. Let's hire you. No. Can I look at your resume and can you say, do you fit the qualifications of us continuing to level up? I don't want a handout. Personally, I want to earn it. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we're in a better place because to me, we're giving people opportunities not based on what they're worth. We're giving it to them because we got to check a box so that we can be politically correct. But that doesn't mean you've earned it. That doesn't mean you've grinded for it.
Yeah, I think that's a very valuable perspective. I also think that's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of people starting their own business, because you don't have to deal with any of that. I mean, I shouldn't say you don't have to deal with it. You do, but you have ownership over your own story. And, I think, just like you've had, you're a serial entrepreneur, right? I often joke that most entrepreneurs think of like several businesses by Wednesday and then have to spend Thursday and Friday figuring out ways not to start the business. It's a problem. Right. Well, you and I could talk for 10 hours at this point. I'm gonna have to come. I'll send you a message. I'm actually coming down to Florida this fall for a Builder 20. I'll have to see how close I am to Freeport, and if I can sneak away.
Where are you going?
I have to look. I don't even remember. It might be Pensacola.
You're probably not coming near me, just so you know.
Okay, so
I'm in the Panhandle.
Okay, yeah, no, I think we're closer to the coast. So, but anyway,
I'm in the coast, but in the Panhandle.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'll look. I'll send you an email, but I would love to see you some more. So, well, thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you and talk with you, and I hope your story is extremely uplifting to those that are listening. And I hope it encourages people to start their own business to level up. And I think everyone's gonna have to reconsider their top 5 after listening to this one.
Go do your top 5. Go follow me on social media on our Rosa's Real Reels and tell me what your top 5 is. I can't wait.
I love it. All right. Thanks for coming on the Curious Builder podcast today. This is Mark Williams and Rosa Santiago Zimmerman signing off. We're excited to announce that we have partnered with Harness Workwear. They're an amazing shirt company. I'm actually wearing it right now if you're on YouTube. Softest shirt I've ever had. Also the most durable. There's a reason these guys make shirts for workwear. If you head to our Curious Builder webpage under the merch channel, you'll see we have a limited time only of our pre-launch of the Curious Builder shirt. We also have our new monogram that's going to be on the back with a cool little custom tag. If you want to support the show, if you want to support what you're listening and small businesses, both for Harness as well as the Curious Builder, please go there, buy a shirt, buy 2, give one to one of your colleagues, maybe one of the tradesmen that you think might like the show, and you're supporting a small business and you're supporting this podcast. So I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like what you listen to, please give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It really means a lot. It's a great way for us to just understand what you like about the podcast and what we can keep doing. So like and review, and please share with your friends and family. Find out more at curiousbuilderpodcast.com.